Hello, welcome to Colonel O'Truth's Miniature Issues. In this episode, number 70 in this series, I'm going to be building an ancient temple. I'll be using cardboard, foam board, some washers, and a pebble. This piece will form the highest point of the Overcrag, a small part of a miniature fantasy city that's taken almost 2 years to build. This is Undercrag City. I've started this piece with 3 main elements in mind. I want the appearance of something alien to the rest of the city. I want a 5-sided shape because I like them. And I want to incorporate a mysterious stone. Here I'm working from a concept sketch and just roughing out the dimensions I think things will be. As with everything I do, I'm open to changes as the process goes on. The foam board rectangle on which I've drawn the pentagon gives me my limits for the size of this piece. It's about all I can fit at the top corner of the Overcrag. I'm more or less happy with the unusual shape I've devised for the columns. Now it's a matter of translating that onto a piece of card as a template. It may take me a couple of tries. This temple far predates both the Overcrag and Undercrag City itself, and this needs to be apparent in the design of the stonework. Perhaps whoever built this also built the aqueduct far below in Undercrag City. Maybe we'll never know. Finally happy with a very sketchy sketch. My proportions are right, so I'm going to cut it out. I've drawn this template on the 1mm thick black card that I've used throughout this project. There, that'll do nicely. Now I need a series of vertical lines to work on. Slipped a little there. I'll fix it later. The vertical line on my template will correspond with the vertical lines on the card. This will mean that all of the pieces I cut are correctly aligned to the ground. This will be important when I come to do the stonework later, as you'll see. There we go, my 5 main pieces. I'm going to cut out and build these as accurately as possible so that they're all the same, and then deal with ruining them later. To my mind, this will give a more realistic result than trying to start with ruined pieces. I hope that makes sense. Marking my template to keep it separate. And I like the way those are going to line up. Back to my template. Drawing another piece. Making sure my vertical is marked. And I'm planning some offsets. By drawing around the template lined up to the offset, I get the beginnings of the next piece, slightly smaller, to sit perfectly inside the first. Template 2, 10 pieces. And I'll give you 3 guesses what I'm doing now. Bit of freehand drawing for the fiddly side. And a nice simple outline for the easier side. And there's template 3. Just like the second one, I'm going to need 10 pieces here. I have template 1 at the center and 1 of each of the others building outwards from that on each side. For template 3, I need the horizontals for my stonework. This is why it was important to line everything up in the first place. As I draw out my templates, I can see where I'm going to cut for my stone. And there we go, 10 of those. So let's start putting them together. 1 large piece. Line up the next piece, paying attention to the bottom, where it will sit flat on the ground. Then the third piece. This card bonds very nicely with PVA, very quickly. And the same on the other side. So I end up with a nice chunky 5mm thick column, or 5 of them to be precise. I've decided to thicken the base even further. So I can use my template, just create some pieces that will sit nicely at the bottom of the columns. There we go. How's that going to look? And I think the column needs a plinth. So 2 ovals, 1 small, 1 large. And now it's time to start with the stonework. Using a very sharp knife with a new blade, I'm cutting into each line, first from one side, then the other at a slight angle, to carve out a V shape between the stones. And now I'll continue that line out to the edge of the column. It can be a little bit rough. In fact, rougher is better. These columns are hundreds, if not thousands of years old. Now I'm going to chamfer off the edges. And carve in some damage. Finally, I'll mount it on its plinth. After quite a lot of carving, all 5 are done, and I need to look at how they're going to fit on this board. One of them needs to be cut off. That'll be sitting right at the back of the model. I want to keep it within the lines of the model itself, as I eventually want to put Undercrag City in some sort of a display case. So I'm going to ruin this column, rather than having it artificially cut off at an odd edge. I've cut it into 3 main pieces. And these will lie broken on the ground. There's my pebble on some washers at the middle of the base. I'm happy with the layout, so it's onto some stone texturing. Paint each of the columns completely with a thin coat of PVA. I haven't watered this down. Now I'm going to cover this with baking soda. This will give me my stone texture. Baking soda is gritty, but much finer than sand. On this scale, sand would look wrong. On a much larger scale, sand is fine. Once the baking soda's on, I immediately brush it off again with a soft brush. If I didn't do this, there's a chance it would absorb too much moisture from the glue and form clumps, which I don't want. Even though it looks like a lot of the baking soda has been brushed off, it's still there, it just sort of goes clear in the glue. Now, why paint a white stone white? Well, this is some sort of quartz. I want light to shine through it, as you'll see later, but it's a little bit too pristine. So a thin grey wash and a white dry brush just gives me a slightly more rocky appearance. I needed to break up the colour. Back to my columns. I'm using the same grey as I've used throughout Undercrag City. The temple may be very old, but whoever built it clearly used the same local stone as everyone else ever since. And now it's time to do some highlighting. While I'm doing this, I should tell you a little bit about this temple. Situated at the highest point of the Overcrag, in the northwest corner, this is the temple of the forgotten god. Its origin has been lost in the mists of time, but it is certainly thousands of years old. The architecture is like nothing found anywhere else in this part of the world. The sweeping lines and smooth curves are more reminiscent of another city, hundreds of miles away to the east, Velitsia, the city of the artisan princes. But even travellers from that strange land can give no clue as to who built this. Despite the mystery, the people of the Overcrag do not view the temple of the forgotten god as a place to be wary of. Many believe that the temple brings luck to the region and protects its inhabitants. At harvest time, wreaths and gifts are left by the stone. And these wreaths and gifts always disappear. By night, the temple gives off a strange green glow, perhaps related to the glow further down inside the mountain. Whatever power once dwelt here, maybe a part of it still remains. My stonework is painted, and I'm going to start putting the scene together. I'm using both PVA and superglue to hold these washers. The superglue gives an immediate bond, the PVA fills the gap nicely, and together they're very, very strong. Now that that's done, I can start adding the columns to the foam board. Here I confused myself. I thought I'd put this column in the wrong place, added the broken column, and then realized it was on the wrong side. Anyway, I fixed it. Now I need to shape the base a little and remove those right angular edges. If you're enjoying this video, please feel free to give us a like and a share. And if you're new to the channel or you haven't already, please remember to subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow, it really helps the algorithm, and we appreciate all your support. And remember, leave comments and questions below. I answer all of them, and I really like hearing from you. Anyway, back to the sculpting. I've shaped the base and I'm adding red clay. This is to break up the surface and stop it being so perfectly flat. Maybe it was once, but this temple's been around for a long time. The elements may not have been very kind. Just adding a blob at a time until I'm happy. Then my broken pieces. And almost immediately, I can get on with texturing that. So a good coat of PVA and sand, ground texture and moss on the columns. It doesn't take a lot of thinking about. I'm working quickly. I'm just building it up until I've got the look I want. When the sand is dry, I'm going to paint it. I start this process by daubing it with water. The water spreads quickly through the sand, and that will carry the paint in. Nice and simply, nice and easily. I find this cleaner and better than using watered down paint. My mosses need to be painted grey, the same as the columns. Really, I should have added this sand earlier. It doesn't matter too much. With my brown earth dry, time to add some highlighting. This is the same palette that I've used throughout the rest of the model. As the name suggests, the Temple of the Forgotten God, nobody remembers the purpose of this place. But there are legends about the people who may have been here way back when this place was new. They were strange, superstitious, but powerful, with arts and sciences that have long since been lost. They left these lands, but many in the East claim to be descended from them, particularly in the city of Vilizia, the city of the artisan princes, which I mentioned earlier. Maybe one day I'll take you there. All my stonework and my mosses are getting a thin black wash. Then the mosses get green, which will be followed with yellow. This colour palette has been used throughout the city. The moss, after all, doesn't care how old these structures are. These colours are really starting to bring this together. And still, while everything is wet, a thin brown wash on all of the earth. My colours are running together like a watercolour picture, and that's what I want. And here's where it's going to sit. You'll have noticed I was building a house in the background as well. It's very much the same as all of the houses around it, and I've explained those in detail elsewhere. I have a green LED that will poke up through the hole in the centre of this piece and light the stone. Time to start sculpting this into the rest of the landscape. As usual, I'm overlapping work that I've already finished. This helps with the organic look. You'll notice that as I add clay, I add glue. This is similar to working with pastry. As you add pastry to more pastry, you add water first. Here it's clay and glue. I also smooth out the clay with more glue. Bit of landscaping. Uproot some plants, add more clay. I've built up the embankment here with a piece of stone wall. And I'm creating a clay overhang. Again, smoothing off the clay with a brush. While the clay is setting, I can add my sand again. Starting with some pieces of grit for larger stones. Now it's back to the grey. for all of the exposed stone and the step to the house. I'm picking out the large sections of grit as well. With my brown paint in place, I'm highlighting the grit first. Light grey and then white. Once again overlapping into the areas around it. Highlighting the ground. Black ink wash. And my green and my yellow. And my brown. I've stained the bottom of the stone with some green as well. It was looking too pristine. Even something so magical wouldn't be completely immune. And time for my vegetation. Start with some bunches of flowers and some tufts of long grass, and then just heap on the static grass. Doing a section at a time so my glue doesn't dry too much. Making sure I overlap onto the previous work. The addition of a number of flowers, I think, suggests that this place isn't too sinister. Now I'll just add the last of the grass, wait for it to dry and remove the surplus. And we're there. The temple of the forgotten god, high in the northwest corner of the Overcrag. Ruined, but not powerless. A place of legend and mystery, regarded by many as a friend, both by day and by night. That's all from Undercrag City for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.